Hey, what's up everybody? You're tuned into another episode of Professional Guidance 13, where 13 is stylized in Roman numerals, X111. I'm your voice of choice, hidden in plain sight, aka Hips. It's been a while since you last saw me, and I must apologize for that. I've been under the weather and I've been dealing with extracurricular activities, but nonetheless, I'm here, I'm back in business, so let's just get this show on the road. If you haven't caught the last episode, that was an episode based on my love for the Legend of Zelda franchise. If you haven't caught it, I advise you to go and check it out right now. It's a pretty decent episode and I'm sure that you'll pretty much enjoy it. So, without any further ado, let's get the ball rolling on this episode. So I got the suggestion, yes, insert obligatory friendless joke here. So I got the suggestion about flaky females, to talk about flaky females. And if you're not sure what flaky females are, that's just pretty much women who didn't take the time and effort out to pretty much entertain me and pretty much whatever may have you go out on a date with me, just entertain my conversation, whatever it may be. So somebody told me to talk to the issue about just how flaky females have been with me for the whole year. So I must say that I had put a plan in my mind earlier this year to maybe get myself back into the dating realm, get myself in the dating lane and see where I could go, put myself back on the dating scene and see exactly how far I could probably get to maybe meeting an acquaintance and maybe somehow taking it a further step than just being friends or whatever. So of course, with that entails me actually trying to get to know somebody first of all, scoping out the field, finding a bunch of single ladies or whatever may have you, and just seeing how far or where that could go. But unfortunately, I don't know if I have bad luck, if I've broken a couple of mirrors in the past few years, walked under too much ladders or let too much black cats cross my path. But for the most part, this whole year, it hasn't been going all too much kosher for me, and that's fine in my opinion. It doesn't really bother me too much. But when people ask me about it and I describe and talk to them about it, they just kind of wonder just exactly why and how the misfortune that crosses my path actually happens. And to tell the truth, I can't give them an answer. I can't explain it, but for the most part, I'm going to talk about it in this episode and see if anybody else out there could even help me with maybe the problems I'm experiencing, or maybe I may be doing something wrong. Or if you guys know any way to get over bad misfortune, just let me know, because sometimes it's kind of really ridiculous on how women flaked on me this year or whatever. And like I said, I'm not pressured by it. I don't have a problem with it. It's no big deal to me. But when it comes just down to the practicality of things and things making sense, sometimes I do try to hurt and rack my brain too much about it, when I should just be shrugging my shoulders and saying, hey, that didn't work out, on to the next one. Because I would like to quote a famous rapper at this moment, but I won't disrespect women like that, nah. But anyway, yeah, so some of the reasons that I haven't been, well, when the person suggested this topic to me, this is coming from the realm of dating and trying to find an acquaintance to make my girlfriend eventually. So this is the perspective that I'll be speaking of in this entire episode, okay? So I think it's all romantically revolved, people, so get your mindset in that mind frame. So just to breeze by a couple of reasons why I haven't been on a lot of dates this year. Some of the reasons spawn from being stood up. Some of the reasons spawn from just being canceled on outright. Some of the reasons spawn from misfortunate things happening where the date also had to get canceled because something else came up. And some of the reasons are just total and utter bull crap. In my opinion, just straight up rejection, or straight up a very ridiculous excuse to why a date couldn't have gone as planned. So let me start with some of the reasons why these dates couldn't have gone as planned. Maybe there was something that came up in the family. One of the most famous excuses, I couldn't find something to wear. I think every guy went through that excuse at one point or another in his lifespan. And like I said, some was just straight out flat rejection. I'm just not feeling like doing this right now or whatever. But the thing that really gets to me with majority of the times that I try to go out this year is that some females pretty much approached me saying that, hey, maybe we should do something, hang out or whatever, this and that. And I'm like, okay. okay, I'm kind of taking it with a grain of salt. I'm tippy-toeing around it because from prior experiences in my earlier years and from looking at experiences from others, I know that we could say anything, and until something happens, then it didn't happen. Like, I'm only convinced that something is actually happening. I'm only convinced that I gotten like a present. I'm only convinced that I'm seeing whatever somebody spoiled a movie about for me. I'm seeing whatever video game has been spoiled for me or whatever the experience is. I'm only a believer when I am actually within that moment saying, oh yeah, this is actually happening. I can totally believe that this is happening right now, because up until the last minute before it happens, there's enough time for somebody just to skate you out of it, to say, oh no, this ain't happening no more. Something drastic happens. The universe just goes against the grain, it goes against you, and it doesn't eventually happen. So I'm that type of person that it doesn't happen until it actually happens. And when it's over, I am pretty confident that, okay, yes, this was an experience, and then I go about my daily life rating it or whatever may have you. But I started off the year, determined, trying to say, you know what, I'm going to be a little bit more active in this part of my life where I go out and actually, try to initiate contact, try to initiate relationships, and try to establish a bond between me and some females that I might have been interested in. Because to tell the truth, in my younger years, I was kind of, resistant, reluctant, hesitant, a little bit passive and shy, as a good word to describe it, to actually approach females. And I'm saying to myself, well, if I want to, actually try to build something, maybe I should be a little bit more active. I actually sat down and I looked at myself from a different perspective, from an outsider's perspective, and I had to give myself that fault, that I wasn't being as active as I should have been. So I said, you know what, I'm going to take up the mantle and I'm going to try and, do these things so that maybe eventually I could find a nice companion to hang out with and chill out with, and if things were to escalate and grow into something more, then that would be awesome, So with the knowledge that I had on dating and the knowledge that I have gained from experience, I kind of just jumped into it, gone out there and said, you know what, let me just go and see if I could throw the fishing line out there. If the fish catches the bait, then I'll see if I could reel it in or whatever. And boy, I was not prepared for almost anything that happened this year when I tried to take the active role in trying to be productive in going about this. To tell the truth, I don't know if the rules have changed in the past few years or whatever, but man, just for lack of better words, just the shallowness, the lack of unnecessary work, the lack of irrationality that goes down within trying to actually just set up one date. I don't know if it's only my experience. I don't know if there's something I'm doing terribly wrong, but Jesus Christ, I'm sorry to call the Lord's name in vain, but if I have to go through, I mean, I know I might sound like I'm over-exaggerating, right? And I'm kind of famous for that. The same person who suggested this topic to me is going to say, yeah, but you over-exaggerate, and calm that down. But I don't know, in my opinion, it seems like just so much annoying work that isn't necessary, a bunch of yellow tape that doesn't make any sense to me from the way that I was looking at it, to just set up one date, babe. And it doesn't even have to be like a very serious thing that we're doing. Maybe to go to watch a movie, maybe to go and get some froyo or something. It could be something very simplistic, babe, and that could draw out into days, weeks, and months of either rejection, shutting down, and stuff like that. And I'm like, really, babe? If you guys don't know me, I'm a pretty patient person. So what wouldn't fly for somebody on the first go, I'd keep giving chances. I'd keep saying, I put a lot of logic behind things. So I say, maybe something happened this way, and I always keep a positive mindset to say, I'm not going to look at it in a negative way. It just didn't work this time. I'll try again. I'm persistent in that type of manner, even though there's other ways to be persistent, especially as a male, that society has stigmatized us with. But my persistence comes in a little different type of manner. But the thing with me is, even though I'm saying I'm persistent, after I see that, it's not making sense and it's not going anywhere, I'm the type of person that sits down, remove myself from the situation for a while, and I say, listen, okay, let me slow it down. Let me analyze this and see how what was wrong, what was right, and what I could do different next time. And I take a little hiatus with almost every other thing that I wouldn't want to use the word fail, but when something just doesn't work out, I just try to approach it from a different angle. So early on in the year, like I said, I was being a little bit more active, and I was saying, hey, I'm gonna go out. No, I won't be passive about it. I'm gonna be active and try to actually set up a little bit more dates, try to actually bend conversation a little bit more, be a little bit more open, and based on the steps that I was taking, then eventually something might happen. Well, the first time I tried it, failed, fall flat on my back, and I was like, okay, it's no need to worry, you know what I'm saying? It was just the first attempt. Everything doesn't happen. Rome wasn't built in a day. Everything doesn't happen one shot. So I'm like, second time would be the trick. Like I said, I just kind of took a breather, took a couple weeks off, and I'm saying, you know what? Must be it was just a little bit too early in the year or whatever. It's whatever. So after I come back a couple of weeks later, not with the same female, mind you, but it's just that, I don't know, it's something weird because through the whole year, I guess, various females came in and out of my life or whatever, and that's fine by me or whatever. Like, sometimes some people are going to be temporary, some people are going to be a little bit more longer lasting or whatever, but some of them I just had to pretty much say, okay, that was a done deal and I'm never going to return back to that or whatever. Some I just said maybe I'll try again and see where that leads, and then eventually if it doesn't, then that's cool. So the second time I tried out, I was like, okay, let me approach it from a different angle, see if this is gonna work. So now, while being a little bit more active, I decided to pretty much be active, but not as active, pull back a little bit, I know it's always the guy's duty to, take the reins, speed ahead, and take charge and whatever may have you. But at the same time, with that first attempt, I saw that I'm a person who is able to have a lot of free time on his hands. I have a lot of free time on my hands, and I'm able to, when I say I'm gonna do something, I try to, as best as possible, dedicate to keeping my obligations, prioritize them, and say, you know what, all right, I said I'm gonna do this, I said I'm gonna do that. If me and a female set up a date, I'm gonna do as best as I could to honor that date. I'm gonna remember it. I'm gonna take the steps to saying, okay, the day of, I'm gonna remind you, hey, we're going out, or you said that we were able to go or whatever, this and that. This is what I started to do the second time around. The first time around, I just kind of took everything for gospel and just wanted to just try and roll with it or whatever. And that's why it slapped me in my face so hard, because it was so funny, like the day of, 2 hours before, an hour before, there was cancellations just flinging at me, and I'm like, you know what, I'm putting a little bit too much faith into these chicks, I guess. And I don't want to sound like I'm bashing anybody or putting down anybody, but it's like, I can't go too full in on this. I'm putting a little bit too much faith in it, so let me pull back a bit, which is why I switched the formula up and I just said, you know what, yeah, let's set this up, cool. And then I just took precautionary measures to say, hey, okay, you said that we was planning this, you still up for it, you still want to go, still always good to keep that branch of communication there, to know that if the plan does change, at least you're not really blindsided by it. So I went and did that stuff, and I was like, okay. When I started to get supposedly blindsided, I wasn't blindsided anymore, because I was being a little bit even more active, and I was kind of covering my bases, covering my back too, because from what I saw, some people just aren't able to commit, even if they were the ones who set up dates and stuff like that. And that's the funny thing, like a couple of times this year, some females just were like, yeah, let's go and check this out. Like, they're telling me I'm minding my own business, and they're like, no babe, you gotta go check this out, come, you could take me and this and that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, that doesn't usually happen to me, where females ask me out or whatever. And I know that there's a stigma going around that, some women try to ride and ass, as some people say, or try to find a goon and try to take him for a ride or whatever. But I don't allow myself to be exposed to that. What I normally do is I say, okay, this is a mutual date or whatever, we're gonna mutually agree or whatever, but just let me know if you're still up for it. And now finally, to the stage of, like, this year went into like 3 parts. I know year is broken up into quarters, basically, like the first quarter, like every season is a quarter, but this year went into like thirds for me this year. First 4 months, and then the middle 4 months, and now in these last 4 months, the perspective has just totally changed for me. I'm just kicking back and relaxing, and I'm like, you know what, maybe if I really feeling it, I would try and set up to like chill out on ones or whatever, but I will not make it a big priority to go out and say, hey, let's do A, B, or C, you know? I'm like, you know what, people are asking me out or whatever, I'm just gonna chill, and if I get asked out, I'm asked out. Cool, whatever. And at the end of the day, once again, I cover my tracks, I cover my bases, and I'm like, cool, you ask me out or whatever. If it doesn't seem like a big enough priority on the ladies' part, by the time the day comes up, I'm not even gonna check for it in the first place, you know, because I know there's gonna be a flake. And once or twice that actually has happened in this last quarter of the year, it's just like, okay, they set something up and I'm like, cool, whatever, just let me know, or let me know how you feel by the time the day comes or whatever. The day comes, nothing is said, and then like 2-3 days, maybe a week or so afterwards, you know, we probably chatting in WhatsApp, whatever. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, man, all is well. And it's like nothing actually happened. So I'm like, okay, nothing happened. Big deal, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I plan to make this one a short one today, and that's just how things been going for me for this year. There's been a lot of flakes. There's been 1 or 2 successful dates, and I appreciate those. I wouldn't sit here and act like it hasn't been all going good or I have the worst bad luck or whatever. No, there's been 1 or 2 successful ones, and those have been great in my opinion. I was happy to go on them. I enjoyed myself on those dates or whatever, and the best thing about setting those up was, the best thing about them was the pre-planning, where it was mutual, and all 2 of the folks, myself included, was just dedicated getting it to happen. So that's what I kind of appreciated about it. Definitely the time spent on the date and activities done, but to me it's always that much more satisfying if people just stick to their word and commit to what they say they were going to do. Especially, just don't talk off it and say, hey, let's do this, let's do that, whatever may have you, whether it be in relationships, dating, performing a task, whatever it might be. It's always good to just stick to your word and commit. Do not be flaky, do not be shaky, do not be wishy-washy, because in the long run, and the reality of it is, people aren't looking forward to that, and people are always going to judge you based on how you act towards them in doing those certain type of activities and acting that way. And people are just gonna pretty much not think of you as a credible source. People are not going to take you seriously, and then you're going to wonder why people are not taking you seriously. And then if like they bring it up with you and you get mad about it, that's not going to be justified, and it's just going to push them away even more or whatever. So that's just a bit of advice to anybody out there who might be thinking why somebody might be, you know, acting weird or strange to them. Really evaluate yourself first and see if you haven't been holding up your end of the deal or your end of the bargain, you know, if you haven't been putting in that effort that you need to put in. But yeah, that's how it's been this year. Not too much effort has been put in when it came to actually setting up dates, but well, it's not too much of a big deal. It's cool or whatever. I still enjoyed myself for the whole year, so that's a very good positive and plus. And coming up for next year, I look forward to still putting myself out there on the dating scene or whatever, and just seeing what happens, you know. But until then, I'll just be here, cool, chilling, no big deal. It's gonna be a blast, and I especially hope to have a bigger blast next year. So once again, I'd like to say thank you for listening out this time, and I really appreciate those who have stayed and stuck with me thus far into this journey. And I hope you guys are always entertained and even a little bit informed by some of these podcasts. And I hope to see you next week with a next fully fun-filled and exciting episode. Or maybe, who knows, this next episode might come a little bit more quicker than expected, because even though I've been a little backlogged, I think I'm going to work hard to make sure I get as much more episodes out as possible. But just to give you guys a heads up, I'm pretty much a really busy man at the moment, so I don't want to second prioritize this podcast, but at the same time, there's other stuff that needs to be done because I'm working on a lot of other projects, and I feel good that I'm pretty active and doing things that needs to be done to further enhance myself. So just bear with me, I'll try my best to get these episodes out as much as possible, but I would just like to thank you guys for bearing with me, sitting down, taking the time to listen to these stuff, and I hope to see you again some other time in the future, all right? So without further ado, I guess I'm gonna wrap this one up. This has been Professional Guidance, this has been Pro Guidance 13. I'll see you guys later. Have a wonderful rest of your day.